Here to present for us on the ATL and give us an update on what's to come. And then also I would like to recognize Dr. Dickerson and Mr. Versteeg that are here that are on the ATL board for Cobb County that have also come to be supportive.
Thank you. How are you, sir?
Good afternoon, Vice Chair and members of the Commission. Again, my name is Chris Tomlinson. I have the honor of serving as the Interim Executive Director for the Atlanta Region Transit Link Authority. It's my pleasure to give you an update on what this new authority is about and how we're hoping to work with and interact with Cobb County. So a little bit about the ATL. The ATL, as I mentioned, is a new state-level authority focused on transit planning and transit funding. It was actually created by House Bill 930 in last year's, or in 2018's legislative session. And really since that time, we've been focused on the stand-up of the authority itself. Now we're actually gone through most of those administrative functions and things necessary to create a new legal entity, and we're really about to get started between now and the end of this year with some of our key activities. Just a little bit about the structure, and again, Erica already mentioned, we're joined today by two of our ATL board members, Professor Steve Dickerson and businessman Todd Versteeg. Both represent parts of Cobb County. In addition to them, we have a 16-member board, 15 voting members. And what's really unique at the state level, 10 of the members are selected through a process through local caucuses to decide on 10 out of the 15 voting members. So really fully 2/3 are selected through a local process. And that's in recognition of the fact that when we're talking about transit and mobility, so much of the funding really comes from local sources. So you actually have a state agency where the majority are picked through a local process as opposed to being appointed at the state level. In addition to Professor Dickerson and Mr. Versteeg, Cobb County touches parts of two other districts. One is represented by the Atlanta Mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, and then Speaker Ralston has two appointees to the board, and one of them is former Representative Earl Earhart, which I'm sure most of the board are familiar with Mr. Earhart. So I went ahead and listed him as well. But I want you to know, in addition to those board members, I and my staff are always available to interface directly with the staff, and we have great working relationships with both Erica Parrish and Eric Meyer. So a little bit about the ATL. What is this thing? What isn't it? What are we going to be doing? A lot of what the ATL is about regional coordination when we're looking at potential transit investments throughout a 13-county region. I want to tell you a little bit about our regional transit plan, which is a statutory requirement, and we're in the midst of standing up our prioritization framework, and we're going to create the first transit plan this year. We're also getting ready to release an RFP for another statutory requirement, which is to conduct an annual report and audit of all transit operations and services happening in the 13-county region. We do believe that one of our missions is to help connect a more seamless and connected network amongst all the operators. That's not the same as replacing any operator, but how can we better connect up the transit services? Because as I stand here today, in our 13-county region, there's over 10 separate different operators operating in that region. And the level of coordination between them is probably not at an optimal level, to say the least. We believe that transit technology is one of the things that we'll be able to use to better connect and coordinate throughout the region. There are some components dealing with regional unified branding. I'll touch on that just to really explain what that is and isn't, because there's been a lot of, quite frankly, some concerns around that. And then lastly, I'll touch on some of the specific services that we are going to be offering in the region. A little bit about regional coordination. Many of you are probably familiar with the Atlanta Regional Commission, the area's Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO. The ATL is not a substitute for this federally required entity, but in the area of transit, we'll be working in close coordination with the Atlanta Regional Commission. And what you see up there on the slide is basically what are some of the peer level interactions between the ARC board and the ATL board. And then at the executive and staff level, we're forming a transit executives working group. As I mentioned, there's over 10 different operators. And as we stand here today, I mean, there is some interaction, but there's no formal standing group where the chief staff executives of all the operators actually get together. So we're creating a group that's going to meet quarterly to make sure that what we're doing at the ATL, that we've truly factored in the operational impact of any of the potential items that are coming through the ATL. As I mentioned, the Transit Executives Working Group, because Cobb County has its own independent and highly well-functioning transit operation, Cobb County is listed as one of the members of the Transit Executives Working Group. So we're hoping to bring together the GM and CEO of MARTA, along with Cobb County, along with Cherokee County, Douglas, and several other counties. The key to this group is any entity that has what we call fixed route or what we call scheduled either bus or rail service. Getting in, because these are the groups that, as we're looking at policies around the region, we want to make sure we don't have any unintended consequences or adverse impact to the operations. On your screen, you'll see the Transit Operators Working Group. This is an even broader group. This is any entity that is receiving federal transit funds and having them become involved. So the Executive Working Group, again, are those that have scheduled service. The Operators Working Group is a broader group of anyone who's receiving federal funding. We're not stopping with just the public operators, though. We're looking beyond that. The first two rows show the logos and symbols for most of the main public operators. But I draw your attention to that third row. For us, we're looking at transit and wanting to coordinate with both the public sector and the private sector. So Bird, Lime, rideshare companies such as Uber and Lyft, bike shares. These are all parts of the region's transit solutions. As everyone continues to wrestle with how they may want to regulate, either for safety perspectives, et cetera, we don't want to stand in the way of local preference or regulation, but we're looking at them in recognition of the fact that there are citizens throughout the region who are using them. So how do we responsibly interact and possibly connect with these services? The ATL was created 2 years ago. This thought of e-scooters literally didn't even exist. So we want to have an entity that is nimble enough to go ahead and recognize these quickly changing trends and see how we can best fold this into an integrated network and suite of options. We believe, as you can see, regional technology coordination. We believe technology, as I mentioned, is going to be the key. So one of the things that we're working on in both the policies and standards area, and hopefully we're going to be working closely with entities on their systems, is how can we gather up, for example, all the information on vehicle locations during scheduled service. Imagine, if you will, getting to a future state where in one application you could see all of the bus service or rail service and be able to, much like you would do with Waze, put in your journey, your origin, your destination, and see a suite of options in front of you that may cut across different operators, different counties, and again, giving that commuter the choice of whether they want to access some or all of that. The key to that is going to be technology coordination, and we have a number of plans and processes that we're kicking off this year to help all of us in the region get better data and be able to better utilize the data information that we have. We want to turn around and provide this information for mobile applications, not necessarily providing the app, but aggregating, making sure we have good, clean data that can be safely and securely shared to allow the private sector to innovate in these areas. And we're also working already with a couple of different entities around the region who are exploring autonomous vehicle pilot programs. And in fact, we have a technology committee meeting this Thursday where we'll be highlighting two such entities, the City of Chamblee and Aerotropolis, who are pursuing federal grants to launch autonomous vehicle pilots, as well as a private sector partner who will be launching into actual public usage an autonomous shuttle this year. One of the main activities, core activities, is regional transit planning. And over the past 4 months, we've been putting together a planning process and planning criteria. Key technical staff from Cobb County, as well as from throughout the region, have been helping us, giving us ideas on some of the things that we should consider in that process. And we plan to take our policy planning, our planning framework to the ATL board for action at their May 23rd meeting. So a lot of time and effort has gone into this, but we have a long ways still to go. In order to guide those efforts, the ATL board came up with 6 broad areas or categories of governing principles. We're going to be looking at everything from economic development and land use to access. How do we best connect the workers to job centers throughout the region, equity, innovation, and many other areas. Really the key here is to recognize that transit doesn't exist in a vacuum. We're doing this to connect up different communities, and we want to have some guiding principles to guide the work as well as to be able to evaluate projects against. The ATL will then also be involved with, once you have projects that are in a plan, that's not quite the same as funding. And when entities move forward to request federal funding, the ATL wants to be there to issue letters of support that, for those projects that are aligning with these regional priorities, and also help bring the influence of the state to helping attract those federal dollars into the region. So we believe the letters of support plus the relationships that we have with the Federal Transit Administration will be key. And this goes for projects that are regional in scope or more localized projects. We think that, again, the state can help attract those dollars to the region. I mentioned earlier an ATL annual report and audit. We're actually about to release an RFP to have a consultant help us create this statutorily required audit. And we'll be looking at an audit that follows the state fiscal year. But you'll be able to look at this document and in one place see not only by operator and system, but also a regional overview of how this region is doing in these areas and how it compares to other regions that we're competing with economically throughout the U.S. Branding. There's been a lot of questions and a lot of misinformation about branding. The ATL is not a substitute for any one operator. It's not a substitute for MARTA. It's not a substitute for Cobb Link. Like I said, our primary focus is planning. That being said, House Bill 930 does require that our regional transit plan include a plan for unified branding across all 13 counties. The question becomes, are we talking as a region of some major rebranding effort, which I'll be the first to admit there's no funding in House Bill 930 or in the budget for something like that? Or is it co-branding like you see on the rear quarter panel of the MARTA bus? These are things that we're looking at, and even for the state's express service, which we partnered for years to provide service here, even in Cobb, we're asking folks in the region, how do you think the state, this is the state requirement, how do you think the state should apply to its own operational services? So what you see there are just some conceptual drawings, but we want regional input on making those decisions. And it very well may be that just showing that all the services are part of a connected network, such as co-branding can do, may be the way, or it could be full-scale rebranding. But there'll be multiple opportunities for the region to weigh in on those decisions. Last but not least, but one of the areas I'm most excited about is transit planning services. So we've already been approached by City of Smyrna here in Cobb, as well as Forsyth County. These are all areas that have decided they need to find out what their constituents want or interested in transit. But because they haven't embarked in transit, they don't have that expertise on staff. The ATL is in a position to provide staff support and technical assistance to do everything from helping write an RFP to do one of these studies, or through our own contracts that we'll have with consultants, basically facilitating the creation of those plans if a local entity wants to utilize our services rather than taking the time to spend on an individual RFP. So these are some of the types of services that we'll be able to do, as well as help with more complex implementations of, say, transit technology, but basically to be there for a resource for jurisdictions throughout the region. This is information that this group is already familiar with. When it comes to Cobb County and Cobb Link, Cobb has been a great partner. When it comes to the state's operational services with Express, we literally share facilities, and we've been grateful for the partnership in Cobb. Some of our most popular routes are in Cobb, and some of our expansion plans, especially around the Kennesaw State area, are all up here in Cobb County. And we look forward to continuing to explore and expand that partnership where and when it makes sense. Recapping, so we're in the regional transit planning process development. Once that's approved by our board, this summer we'll be doing a call for projects to be included in the first ATL regional transit plan. These are going to be projects that anyone who is looking at transit, is looking at federal funding for those, they need to show up on the plan before they go into what we call the 6-year regional TIP, or our 6-year fiscally constrained plan that ARC does, or our long-range plan. So when it comes to transit, the work that ARC formerly did is primarily being done by the ATL. As I mentioned, we're setting up this ATL Transit Executives Working Group, and we're looking forward to the participation of Cobb on this new group to make sure we better coordinate in the region. And we'll be working on certain key policy areas. Another area we've been asked to that's outside the technology is regional fare policies. Even for the express service that Cobb, Gwinnett, and the state runs, we have different fare structures, different transfer rules. We want to explore to see if there's ways to simplify that for the commuters and users. And then we're just going to continue to work on the creation of this first annual report, because that is statutorily required to be submitted to the General Assembly by December of this year. And right now, we are also wrapping up budget discussions, because come September, we have to submit our first look at the ATL's budget for fiscal year 21. I mentioned that because that's on the administrative side, that's internal housekeeping. But one last thing in the statute that you may find of interest each year, the ATL board can put forward a list of transit projects in the region for the state to consider providing capital infusions through its bond package. So this would be the potential of money from the state going into these local projects that are helping move the needle, where the state would pay back that debt service. So it would not filter back down to the local level. And so by September 1 of each year, we have to turn in that list. Excuse me. So we'll be looking at presenting by August to the ATL board first list for consideration. So I know it went pretty fast, but I know you have a full agenda. I'm happy to take questions, and I hope this gives you just an overview of some of the activities that the ATL will be embarking on. Thank you.
Any questions? Commissioner Cupid.
Thank you for your presentation. Will you be able to provide that to us electronically?
Oh, absolutely,
okay.
and your team already has it.
Wonderful. Also, in one of your slides, you showed that Cobb was divided into 3 districts, 3, 4, and 8.
Yes.
Okay. How does the communication of projects get up the chain to be considered? Is it considered by that district, and then is it vetted by that group and then determined in a different prioritization based off of what the initiatives are of that group? Can you tell me a bit how that works?
No, great question. When we do the call for projects, any municipality or transit operator can submit. It's not submitted by district. So Cobb County as a county could submit projects. Individual cities could be a project sponsor or operators. There's no difference, at least in our view, legally between Cobb Link and the Cobb County Commission. So you can submit projects through there. The districts are set up to be multi-county in nature, and we will end up listing which projects fall in each district, but projects aren't submitted only through the board members. They would be submitted through the municipalities, or in the case of like a MARTA, an independent operator.
Okay. And are they prioritized through that 16-member board that?
Yes, so the planning framework that's being put together is to, when we take all these projects and we look at them regionally, how would we prioritize those projects? And this isn't about winners and losers. This is going to be about which projects are in the best shape or ready to move forward to receive the much needed federal funding. And projects that may not seem as ready, ATL staff wants to work with us project sponsors to talk about where they may be falling short and move them forward. Our problem in this region, quite frankly, has never been a lack of good projects. It's a lack of funding to move them forward. And the question I get asked often is, well, how are you going to prioritize, say, I'm making this up, this project in Cobb against this project in Atlanta? Mm-hmm. We actually don't look at it that way. If you had, say, 2 mega projects, the actual chance of 2 mega projects lining up and wanting to request federal funding in the exact same funding cycle between the environmental process and all that isn't as likely as you would think. But if that does happen, we want to be able to look at this plan and provide information out to everybody on how those would be prioritized and have the discussions now, because what we've heard from the federal government is they don't want to play King Solomon, and when we as a region aren't coming together and trying to state the priorities. So I worry less about that problem. I worry more about we have the sequence of projects. They're all mega projects. What can we do to increase our chance of year after year pulling down those dollars? Because we are competing against the entire state the entire country for these pools of funding.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Burrow.
Yes, thank you. Very thorough presentation. We appreciate that. Since we're not going to be coming forward with a, firm proposal until 2021 or 22, does that put us at a disadvantage for funding?
Great question. I don't think so, and I look at it this way. From my perspective, Cobb has a thriving transit system, and we still want to discuss and explore connectivity with that system. The questions that Cobb is facing on whether to join into the MARTA system, that is one way, one very specific way of providing funding or connectivity, but we're sort of agnostic to that. We want to say, hey, what is the next step for the existing service and what connectivity can be done under the existing funding? So I don't think it puts you at a disadvantage. I understand that Cobb may be looking at doing a transit study or plan in the near future, regardless of what it does under House Bill 930. I mean, but again, it's my personal opinion. I don't live in Cobb. That might be a very worthy endeavor to figure out the specific potential investments in the system, regardless of how they're funded or regardless of who's operating them. Because we're not in a position to really have we're not as close to your citizens as you are. And so we're looking to all these different transit studies that are happening around the region to understand the local priorities, number one, and number two, we're looking to see how do they connect together, because no one is doing that now. DeKalb has a plan, Fulton did a plan, City of Atlanta. No one is seeing, do these weave together to make a network that makes sense? And that's one of the things we're doing. So there's multiple steps that can be done in the interim while Cobb decides some of the larger questions.
Well, the current revision, the current plan process will produce the project list that may be eligible for 930 or 170 funding. So kind of in sync with what you're talking about, but we just take a more methodical approach to things since we have a very mature system.
Yeah.
It carries 3.5 million riders. So a couple of things, Chris. Look, I look at the big scale, you know, and the national debt's not getting any smaller.
Yeah.
Is this having an impact on discretionary funds that will go into the kind of funding that may be available for these programs in the future? What are you hearing from Washington?
It does. They're looking at what we call reauthorization, fundamentally redoing the transportation funding and what we call the trust fund. They're planning on taking that up between the current Congress and basically between now and next year. One of the things we're trying to do at the state level is be part of that conversation. That pool of money that all of our projects go through is about underfunded, about 30% underfunded. So what we're doing is we're taking a realistic, some people may say conservative look at what's the likely amount of funding. There are mega projects that in the past receive about 50% federal funding. We're looking at projects that have been awarded federal funding in the past 2, 3, 4-year cycle, and we're seeing 30 to 35%. So we may be that group that comes to locals and say, well, if you get 50% funding, great, but what happens if you only receive 35%? Do you do less of the project? Or on your list of projects, does that list become shorter because the funds don't stretch as far? And so some people, I'm sure, are going to accuse us of throwing cold water, but we want to be very realistic in those scarce funds.
Yeah, I think there's the need for more cold water in today's world. The second thing is the ATL board going to be looking at the fare structure? You know, it hasn't been revised in decades.
Yeah,
And as you know, that's how we pay for O&M. We subsidize a lot of it. But it would help if we could have some relook at the fare structure.
We want to look at the fare structure, regional fare structures from a policy perspective, and that could come in multiple forms. Should everything have a flat fare? Should it be distance-based? Do the fares make sense? Should fares be uniform by mode, where all express costs the same across a region? And there's some real-world practical problems. I'm sure everyone, including Cobb's budget, is built off of the current fare structure. But the short answer is yes, we want to be the ones to kick off that conversation on a regional basis, and we want to use groups like the Transit Executives Working Group to bring everyone together and have a forum to explore this area.
Great. Anybody any questions? Thank you, Chris. It's always a pleasure, and I apologize for being late.
No problem. Thank you for the opportunity to come, and I look forward to working with this commission and your staff.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, let's have CSB, Foster, it's all yours.
Good afternoon. My name is Foster Norman. I'm the CEO for the Cobb County Community Services Board. Thank you very much for allowing me to talk, and I'm going to try to make this pretty quick. But I want to give you some basic information so that, one, if you have never heard of us, perhaps it'll be the first time and you'll have some information about us. Or if you have heard of us, perhaps you don't know exactly what we do. And perhaps I can give you some information that will allow you to understand a bit better what we do. So the Cobb County Community Services Board is a part of the state's Community Services Board system that was created by the Georgia General Assembly in 1994. And it was, the Services Board system was created to be that safety net provider for individuals in our state who have a mental illness, a substance use disorder, or individuals who have an intellectual or other developmental disability. And when I say the safety net, I am talking about the system and those places where individuals who have no insurance and they don't work and they don't have the ability to go to a private provider and pay for services out of their pocket. So these are individuals who are 100% or less of the federal poverty level, individuals who by the definition in Georgia meet that definition of indigent. So individuals who are uninsured and some individuals who may be considered to be underinsured to the point that they may have some insurance, insurance doesn't cover our services, or some individuals who have signed up for an Accountable Care Act plan and whose income is low. They may get a federal subsidy for the premium, but then they go to their doctor and they can't afford the copay or the deductible. So that's who we serve. Wanted to make sure that you understand that the Community Services Board system are public entities. And so the Cobb County CSB is a public entity. We are not a state agency. Obviously, we're not a county department, but neither are we a nonprofit 501c3. So I don't want you to get us confused with those nonprofit 501c3s that exist in our county that provide human services. We are a public entity. And the majority of our funding comes from the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disability System. Just a couple of numbers, and I'm not going to read all these or go over all of them, but just a couple of numbers for you to get some insight into the prevalence of these issues that we deal with. So first number is about 44 million adult Americans experience a mental illness in any particular given year, and almost 10 of those would experience what we consider to be a serious mental illness. Additionally, there are about 20 million Americans who are age 12 and older who suffered from a substance use disorder in the year 2017. And of those 20 million, about 74% of those suffered from an alcohol addiction. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in America, second leading cause of death for those ages 10 to 34. And I saw recently on the news, and so my piece of data here is relevant, that 18 to 22 veterans die each day due to suicide. A couple of facts about us. Our operating budget is about $25 million. We have about 320 staff spread across multiple locations within the county. And again, the majority of our funding comes from the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health. That money comes in really 3 different ways. There are 1/12 grants, there are expense-based grants, and then there's, there's the normal healthcare fee-for-service piece. The things that we deliver to citizens of our county and to other counties is that we provide a range of outpatient services. That would be your typical individual and group counseling. There are more intensive kinds of services when it comes to group counseling. We have some day services, we have residential services, and we have a very nice array of crisis services. In fact, we have at least one program that, of which there probably are only a handful in the whole state. And that is, and you may be familiar with that facility on County Services Parkway, is our Behavioral Health Crisis Center. And we actually have 3 different components there. And folks can walk in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to get an assessment to determine what is the next step in the process. That person may need additional observation, so we have a unit that someone can stay for up to 24 hours. And then if someone really does need more intensive services of an overnight duration, we have 24 beds that someone can stay in for a 24-hour period. The length of stay of that program is usually about 5 days. And those programs are meant to be programs that divert individuals from the hospital emergency departments and also from our psychiatric inpatient facilities. On our outpatient services, one of the things that we do that's a pretty new trend in mental health, public mental health, particularly across the country, is that we operate on an open access model, meaning that it's not that you call and you say, I think I need some assistance, when can I come in, and I schedule for you an appointment in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We just tell you to walk on in because we want you to come today. Because if individuals who have mental illness and a substance use disorder have gotten to the point where they've gotten the courage to make that telephone call, if you wait at even 1 day, the chances are 60 to 70% that that person will change their mind and will not show up. So when they call, we want to say, you come on in today. We will see you today. And once they come in, then we do that assessment to determine what are services that may be needed in the future. And if it's therapy services, then we attempt to get that first appointment within 3 to 5 days of that initial appointment. If the individual needs to see a psychiatrist, then we attempt to get that appointment within 7 days of that initial appointment. We've got a couple of pieces of statistics here for you that might be interesting, and I'm only going to hit one of them. It's estimated that if 10% of drug-addicted offenders receive drug rehabilitation instead of jail time, that the criminal justice system could save $4.8 billion compared to current cost. Some of the value that we as an organization have for the community, again, is that we serve as the primary behavioral health and IDD provider for individuals who are uninsured. Again, on the physical health side, if someone gets sick, where do they go? Well, they can go to the emergency room. There are some not-for-profit physical health organizations in our county. So then the question is, if you have a mental illness and you're in crisis, or you're about to go in crisis, or where do you go? Well, a lot of times, unfortunately, the answer is the emergency room of the hospital. And that's one of the reasons I'm out talking, is that that's not where we want people to go. We want those folks to come to us because we have the resources available 24/7 to deal with those individuals. As I said, we offer an array of services that most other behavioral health provider systems cannot offer. Now, yes, there are some services that may be offered in other systems that we don't have, and so you put the two together to have a continuum. Plus, we serve those individuals who have. Yes,
Yeah, just to ask about that, I was dealing with a constituent who has an adult son who has autism and has run into a number of challenges with even keeping the son at home because the son can just leave and then cause challenges. And I think she was under the impression that the only way her son could be admitted to this facility is if he was under suicide watch. Is there other care available for someone who may need their child to be seen under that type of circumstances?
there is.
Okay.
Georgia particularly has mobile crisis teams that are specific to the developmental disability population. So when someone is in a crisis, that is step one. And in
Mobile
one of my
crisis team.
slides coming up, there is a phone number. Georgia has a crisis line number, 800 number,
Okay.
that's operated by a contract provider for the department. So that would be step one. And then that mobile crisis team, once they assess that situation, then they have some resources that could be available.
Okay.
So it really depends upon whether you're talking about someone that just has autism or whether it's autism and a mental illness. Because now you're talking about something totally different.
Interesting. I'm sure I'd have to talk to you offline with respect to that, but
That'll be fine.
it just made me realize just how vast array of services are needed for certain populations
Yes.
that we may not consider on a day-to-day basis unless they're in our own home. And
Right.
I just felt for this particular family.
And autism is one of those disability areas that there's not yet a lot known about autism. And there may be services. I won't tell you that the total array of services are in place. I would dare say that they are not. There are some, but whether or not that array of services is adequate may be a different story.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So some of the things that we are looking for in our future is we want to strengthen our array of services. We want to strengthen our partnerships with other community agencies. We want to develop seamless transitions of care between levels of care, meaning we have to work with other community partners because no one system can provide everything that's needed. We want to become obviously financially stable, which we have not been for the past several years. And we want to make sure that we provide the right service at the right time, in the right amount, and certainly for the taxpayer at the right cost. And I do have a slide here with some phone numbers. So we do have our own access center that individuals can call to get information or to get referred to a service. I have our Behavioral Health Crisis Center, again, is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, located at 1758 County Services Parkway. The Georgia Department of Behavioral Health has their own crisis line. And you have my telephone number and cell phone number. When you run up against a situation and you need some assistance, please give me a call. And we have a web page, and currently we've got some plans to redo our web page, but it is there at cobbcsb.com. Any questions? I did fail to say one thing before Commissioner Boyce says something. We are governed by an 8-member board, of which Commissioner Boyce is a member of our board.
Foster, you've really way undersold what you all do down there. It took me a whole year just to figure out what the acronym BDHDD stood for, and I was on the board. But as we got into this thing, you hit it right on the head, Commissioner Cupid. There are an extensive amount of services that this center does, and Foster has, in the remarkably short time he's been there, about a year now, right, Foster?
Not quite, almost.
Not quite. Well, it seems longer because you've done so much. You've started to put us back on the right financial foothold. There were some problems in the past. But in conjunction with our coordination with the accountability courts You know, you bring a lot to this county by doing exactly what you said in your slides. These people do not belong in jail, all right? They need counseling and help. And you've done a great job with your staff of working with what we have here to leverage all that, to help out a community, which I'm very pleased to see Governor Kemp in his comments earlier this month talked about that they're going to be plussing up some resources for services just like this. So I think that the message is finally out there that there are people who need our help, and in a country like America and in a state like Georgia, we can do more. And I'm really pleased to see that both the county and the state are doing just that. And with these services being put in your capable hands along with your team, we're certainly going to be doing the right place at the right time at the right cost. So thank you for all that you do down there.
Well, thank
And
you.
we're really excited about the future under your leadership.
Thank you very much. And we appreciate all the financial support from the commissioners. We would really be in a bad spot without it. Thank you very much.
It's good to have you again, Foster. Thanks for all we do for the county. Okay, Neighborhood Safety Commission.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners, County Manager. I'd like to introduce Carol Massey to you. She will be providing you a 2018 report.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm back again 6 months later. Commissioner Gambrill, we were asked, Neighborhood Safety Commission was asked to do a summary in October of activities as Commissioner Weatherford was going off. And so I've been invited back to give you a 2018 report now. So. As you know, the commission was established by your resolution on September 28th, 1999, for the purpose of assisting efforts to promote safe neighborhoods for both residential and business interests, and to increase local community involvement in neighborhood safety, to identify neighborhood safety resources, and to strengthen neighborhood safety efforts. There have been significant accomplishments in the past few years coming out of this commission, most notably the false alarm reporting, which led to some ordinances, the Elder Abuse Task Force, which has now taken on a life of its own, but it was a project of the Neighborhood Safety Commission, and then community awareness discussions, which were recorded here in this room and televised through Cobb's television services. That activity is going to be changing due to some of the fiscal concerns of the past couple years. We feel that we can be more impactful by providing those discussion groups in a different format. And so we are currently looking at how to develop that. The next slide shows the current appointments. And you can see that there are some vacancies. One of the major concerns, and I'll address that just in a moment, has been the turnover of commission members over the last few months. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. In the, I guess, early fall, summer, fall of last year, we embarked upon a strategic planning process to really get us aligned with what were identified needs and to get our members committed to working in specific areas. And out of that strategic planning process, we formed 4 committee work groups: community awareness and engagement, public safety, interface, children and youth, and behavioral health and substance abuse. Now, I talked a little bit about our challenges of stabilizing the membership of the commission. And that has had a real impact on us over the last 6 to 8 months. We've had a number of members who have had to come off of the commission for various reasons, relocations, health challenges. And it's really sort of stagnated our work. And I'm hoping in the next few months, we'll be able to get our membership stabilized and committed to working on these specific areas. However, during these past few months of challenges, we have held one community forum in East Cobb around safety for Asian and Indian communities, especially during the holidays. There have been, in the past, significant robberies and home invasions of individuals living in those communities. And so we held a forum back in October at the East Cobb Senior Center, had over 100 people who attended. And we did that in conjunction with Cobb County Police Department, and it was a very successful effort. Moving forward, we are hoping to do some work with other communities throughout Cobb to address specific crime issues, general safety issues, and to really hear what the community needs from our commission and from other aspects of county services. I talked about stabilizing commission membership. I really appeal to you. I've attached, I believe there is a summary of attendance of our commission members over the last year or so. And I really appeal to you to speak to your appointees about their attendance and participation and help us in stabilizing our group so that we can move forward with our work. Of course, I know you've heard that we have concern about the recruitment and retention of public safety employees, particularly police and fire. Both individually and collectively, our commission members want to urge your consideration of compensation programs that will help us retain the highly skilled, trained, and qualified employees in those areas. About 2 weeks ago, I was at Precinct 4, just a drop-in visit to meet with one of the officers, and was told that day that another I guess he had been there about 4 years, policeman had resigned to go to another county, another agency, where he had better earnings, he had to take home car, where he could feel that he was being compensated appropriately. So we're losing our talent, and that's really going to impact us in the long run. I know you've heard this, and you will continue to hear it, but I just wanted you to know that we are also aware and really support the efforts to maintain the safety of our communities. We need to maintain our workforce. Finally, the biggest challenge when I talk to people about being on the Neighborhood Safety Commission, well, what is that? So many people in areas of our community are not aware of what this commission is charged with doing. So we've got to do a better job of reaching out. Some of our members are now joining the discussion groups in the precincts. We're trying to be more visible at activities, but just to make our community more aware that there is such a commission and that we are interested in their needs and hope to foster that. So you've heard some very detailed reports prior to mine. This one is a very brief one. I now ask you if you have any specific questions for me.
Thank you, Carol, and thanks to all the members of the Neighborhood Safety Committee that do a great job. As you know, I served on that committee for 10 years prior to being elected to office, and chaired it for a couple of years as well. And we did a lot of different panel discussions and seminars throughout the county in the past. One very effective and I guess successful program when I was on the board was a gang awareness program in the schools to tell parents what to look for in their kids if they're involved in a gang. And I know there's a large gang presence all over the country, but in Cobb as well. And I didn't know if y'all had tossed that around, working with our Cobb police and the Cage unit And then also the panel discussions that you used to have, that were televised on, TV 23, like once a month with, different departments like, or courts, like the DA's office, and a panel discussion on that to create awareness, not just of the Neighborhood Safety Commission, but of other divisions and what we're doing in Cobb.
Yes, to address the gang issue, one of the committees that we developed was around children and youth. And that topic has been discussed, but that's also one of the committees that we lost a participant. So we've got to really focus on getting our committee together to develop its work plan. They've said they want to work on these things, but we need to calendar some events and really put some things in place. But yes, you're right, the gang issue. Another area in children and youth that I am very concerned and involved with is around the suspension and expulsion rates, the disproportionality as it impacts communities of color. So we do want to partner with the schools and with the police. I've talked with Chief Register about a couple of these issues. And so we do want to partner and develop those programs. But I need stable commission members to get the work done.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. And I noticed on, from my appointments, you had 2 vacant, but you do know I have Scott Tucker and then also Milton Beck are the appointees for those positions. Did you, or were you aware
No,
of
that's
those?
not been communicated to me.
Oh,
Just has. We'll fix that.
Okay, so Milton Beck from the Sheriff's Department?
He just retired.
Milton
Yes.
Beck was effective April 1st, and
Okay.
he replaced Glenn Melson.
Okay,
And then Scott Tucker was appointed back in January.
I've never received anything on him,
Okay.
but I'm glad to hear that.
Well, and I know they're both eager to serve, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
We usually get a letter from the county clerk's office, I believe, and I've not received those yet, so I will follow up on it.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
One more thing. You
sorry.
said, did you email us the attendance record?
I think it was turned in. Do you have a worksheet?
Because I don't recall seeing it, but
I can give you a hard copy.
Who has? Oh,
okay. Chief Crider, if you would make sure that that gets to us electronically, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Would you like the hard copies as well?
no, email's better for us.
Okay. Very good.
And I do know that Sam Heaton is my new appointment.
That's
Okay,
great.
so I think we'll prove that, we proved that last meeting. So we gotta figure out what the breakdown is here. I'm sure it's a simple answer.
Okay,
So you should be back up to 100%.
okay, that'd be
Alright.
great. Thank you.
So put them to work.
Oh, I will.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Carol.
Carol. Appreciate
Thank
it.
Appreciate it. Thanks for all you do.
Thanks, Carol. And you have another board member here with us today,
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. Andy?
Andy Smith.
He's everywhere.
Andy Smith.
He's everywhere.
He's everywhere.
And he has just been elected as secretary for the commission, vice chair for the
Even
commission.
better, he got promoted already.
Um,
Wow.
I was trying
This is
to
what happens when
give
you
you
show
the
up for
real
meetings,
job. And I do need to then appoint or get elected a secretary to help us.
Okay, all right. We'll
Thank
leave
you.
that in your hands. All right, thanks again. All right, last item on the agenda would be update on SPLOST programs. So who wants to go first? Looks like it's Parks. Okay.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, County Manager. I'll make it short and sweet.
Property is working with right at $127 million. And to date, we have spent right at 64 million of that. And you can see which the different departments we're working with. We do have a facility restoration capital. Of this, we have spent 4.6 million. To look at some of the jobs we've got going, just highlight, you got public safety training. We have the architects on board now, and we have power to the building. Fire Station 1, the slab's been poured. And there's some precinct renovations going on right now. You have the superstation underway, some fitness rooms at South and East Cobb Government Centers. Judicial, downtown. With getting the law library out of the basement of state court, now we're able to move SCU to the basement. So framing is underway over there, and that job should be complete at the end of the year. Public services, you have the North Cobb Regional Library. That building is dried in. They're finishing the inside. Hopefully they'll be moving into that, I would say August. Schweitzer Library is in the design development phase, but that work will start at the end of June, 1st of July. And of course, we have the South Cobb Regional Library. It's a smaller job. We got furniture on order in the teen area. Other buildings, you got the medical examiners. You got the sheriff's office, first floor. You have the cabinet shop. We purchased a CNC machine for it. And of course, we're working on a data center. I'll let Sharon talk a little more about that with you. And I got some pictures here. That's North Cobb Regional Library. That's the inside. That's Fire Station 1. The interesting thing about Fire Station 1 and North Cobb Regional, they started about a month and a half apart. And Fire Station 1 got caught by 53 rain days, which slowed them down. And of course, our last slide here is of the public safety training facility. Any questions?
So these are all on time and on budget, except for Fire Station 1?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You said that Schweitzer Library's in design?
Well, it's in design, but we actually gonna start work at the end of June,
Okay,
1st of July. The construction will start.
okay.
Office
Because
staffing-
originally it was the end of this month, I thought.
Well, this will be the middle of June. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks, Scott.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, County Manager. I'll try to be as fast as Scott was. I'm going to brief you on the technology SPLOST. This hasn't changed. As you see, it's the $30,079,002 project areas. Obligated number has not changed. We have a few coming forward in the next couple of months that'll change that, but right now that has not changed.
Will it plus it up or just ask
Plus
for
it
more
up.
money?
It'll plus it up. It won't plus up the SPLOST. It'll just more spent. It'll be more
I
projects
see.
started.
Okay.
It'll be more
All right.
projects started.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir. One area I do want to brief you on is the data center. We have the location. Scott showed you a little bit of it, but I'll show you some of the pictures. We're in the process now of, we'll actually bring to you tomorrow a public hearing because we expect that we'll need to bring in some professional services and technical consulting as we build that. And we'll be beginning that and getting it kicked off. We're really excited about that. So these are some pictures. We're using property management to lower the cost of the inside construction and a few of the outside projects we have going on. Projects completed. The only new one on there is the sheriff. The others you've been briefed on before. The offender management system, we finished that project. Projects in progress. These are the ones you have seen before. There are no new ones up there, but the only ones I'll be giving you a briefing on today are the big data, GIS project, and the Chronos project. The others have not changed in status. This is the division of the dollars basically on the ones, and some of those are estimates, projects we have in progress as far as the expended amount. This is the GIS upgrade. This is the big data portion of this. The phase 1 is complete. Phase 2 is actually bringing the Blue Toad data into the big data platform so they can use that for analysis as well, and that's in progress, as well as upgrading the software to the new version on all of those servers and servers and applications. Our time and attendance system, this is a project that we brought before you earlier. We do have 25 of the time clocks in. We have, we are basically setting up a test environment for that. And then we have the team that will be implementing that is in training, learning the new technology right now.
So in the Chronos system, is that part of that project? We're going to align the requirements for employees with what the requirements are across the board? In other words, we can, you know, we have data to show when we need to have more people there in certain times of the day. Is Chronos going to be, is that part of the Chronos, or is that a separate
This
project?
portion of it is just the hardware and software upgrade, and then
Okay.
we have we'll be looking at that other requirements that the different departments have for tracking, like
Okay.
when someone's working in 2 departments and those kind of things.
Okay, and if you go back to the previous slide,
Yes, sir.
this is the GIS.
Big data.
Yeah, Toad, Waze,
Oh.
whoops, too far. And AVL, why don't you give us, those of us that are sitting here shaking our hands would have absolutely no idea what you just said.
Okay.
The applications, some of the applications of Toad, Waze, and AVL.
Right. Okay, so our big data platform, the user of that is primarily DOT, and they have a huge amount of historical data, as well as we have a integration with the Waze. We receive data from Waze on all of the incidents in the county. We also have the vehicle location data that comes in from all of our vehicles, transit, public safety, our fleet vehicles, all of those that have that. That data is a large volume of data, and to handle that, we brought in the big data GeoServer platform, geospatial platform. We've gotten some of the data, like the Waze data, into that, and that's how you saw the Waze dashboard that we put forward earlier. The Blue Toad data is the speed data we use when we determine the road speeds in the area. So that's all of the data that's in the Blue Toad system. It computes the traffic speeds based on the detection of MAC addresses, those kind of things. Not people, we don't know where people are, but it computes speeds of cars and determines that. That's a lot of data. We're going to be bringing that in. And then those are the 3 things that we bring into that. We also have other accident data in there, but the Blue Toad is a huge thing to bring in because that's another system it has to be integrated with.
Is that all cloud-based, the data?
No, sir, we have the servers here.
You have the servers here. So we're going to have our own server farm? That's what you're telling me?
No, we have servers anyway. Most of these are virtual servers,
Oh, okay.
so they're not physical servers sitting there.
Right. Well, you're talking about all this data. I'm just trying to figure out where you're going to store all this stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's what that platform was actually brought in for, was to allow DOT to do things like go back and look at, I think you saw in a briefing we did last year out at the ESRI conference for the fixed object crashes. They were able to go back and do that because of this platform. So it'll help us target our money in DOT and other areas in like more judiciously. It'll help us use more data to make those decisions.
And aren't we hosting the ESRI convention this year?
The one down in, we're doing the one for utilities, I believe it is,
Okay.
down in Cumberland area.
All right, when will that be?
Good question.
Sometime in the fall? Well,
I
we
can
can look
get
at
that
some
for
of
you.
these applications if we go to this convention, I would imagine, huh?
The one they do have the big data platform will be there. This application for DOT will probably not, because that'll be the utilities one, but they will probably be demoing. Yes, sir.
Sorry, took all the questions. I was just sort of fascinated by
That's
all
okay.
this stuff here.
Okay.
Just, I mean, it works great, except that when it doesn't. Well, the point I'm making is that's why we're spending these resources to make
Yes,
sure
sir.
it works,
Yes, sir.
because we depend upon it
Oh, absolutely.
more than people would realize.
Absolutely. The big data is a good project because we have so many big data sets that this allows us to actually make decisions based on those.
Okay.
So we don't, otherwise it'd have to be people, and we don't have a lot of people to do that. Okay, so, all right. So I'm do this slowly, so done. All right. And then this is that update on the cameras and access. These were all approved by you in the last months. The one that was finished was the South Cobb Motor Vehicle Office. Wanted to put that one up there. The animal control is ongoing right now, and then water is starting right now. These are the cameras and access controls. these are the projects that have been completed in that area. This is actually money that's actually under property, but we do it because it has to do with the IT side of the house as far as technology. Any questions?
So what's your timeline for Unifor Court Management System?
They are still in the vendor evaluation process, and we expect that to take several more months because we're trying to be really, really thorough on those because there's so many elected offices and agencies and courts involved. We want to make sure that we meet all their requirements with the system we select, so.
Other questions? Commissioner Burrow?
Yes, ma'am.
Where are we with community development?
So, yes, ma'am. So the business license replacement, we've been waiting for Jessica to get on board. The committee has met. We would expect to have a vendor selection within the next month to bring that to you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Sharon.
Yes,
Keep
sir.
up the great work. Public safety.
Good afternoon again, Board, County Manager. All right, looking at 2011 SPLOST remainings, we completed the purchase of the additional safety equipment, roof installations, and we just completed our last paving project, so that should wind up 2011. For 2016, you see the list of projects, and I'll break them out based on their current state. The completed projects, the new radios, and 66 police cars in a 2015 lease, 167 police vehicles, fire station alerting software, 2 new animal services vans, and 2 police crime scene units have all been purchased.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, in the prior slide, Randy, can you differentiate the 66 police cars and the 167 police vehicles?
Adam, can you?
There are two different purchases. One was last year, one was the year before.
Are they all leased or some
No.
Yeah.
No, we bought some.
Here comes Bill to the rescue.
They're just broken up into 2 leases. We did one at radio equipment, and we did 66 police cars on the first lease, and the second lease was just all police cars. So that's why they're shown as separate, but it is just in total, the total police cars, and they are all leased, paid for by SPOS funds.
Okay, thank you.
So we only bought 167, not 200,
It's the 167 plus the 66.
so it's 233.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Other completed projects, the fitness center at the East Cobb and South Cobb locations. The substation at Six Flags for the Community Affairs Unit has been completed. And then the AV equipment upgrade for the police precincts, and then the Camp Highlands radio tower, all of those have been completed. Other completed projects is the mobile command unit and also the airport firefighting unit. Current projects, still looking for property for Fire Station 29 down in the Cumberland area.
Wait a minute.
What's that? Commissioner?
Yes, I thought the same thing.
Well, that was impacted by the 285 managed lanes.
No. That's actually precinct 3,
Right.
Fire Station 4 that was impacted by that.
Oh, okay.
The
Sorry.
location for a new Fire Station 29, we're still hoping that the,
And we built number 30, but we still haven't found a spot for 29.
that's right.
And I think I saw something, Commissioner.
There is some proposals in place for the Cumberland Mall Sears location, but we're still working on that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, as mentioned already by Scott, Fire Station number 1 is under construction. They are catching up on that, although we did face several rainy days. They are catching up on that project. And then Fire Station 7, which is located at Hicks and Hurt Road, is in the design phase. The other 2 completed purchases, we have the training center out on the east-west connector. They're out there now doing some exterior work, putting up security fence and so on. And then I think all of you know the status of the police headquarters at the old credit union building. Other projects that we're looking at is at mile marker 281, That's 80% complete on that radio tower, and in the Austell area, that one is 40% complete. And then we're currently doing some renovations at some of the police precincts. Precinct 1 is underway. Precinct 2 will begin in early summer. And then we've completed security fencing at Precinct 2, Precinct 4, Precinct 5, and we're looking at scheduling Precinct 3. And then also furniture replacements for those precincts have been ordered.
For all 5 precincts?
Yes. Any question? Thank you.
I do have, yes, sorry, you didn't run fast enough. You didn't run fast enough.
You're so close.
I know it.
We had that incident on I-285 where we had the explosion.
I-20.
I-20,
I-20.
excuse me, yes, on I-20.
Uh-huh.
Are we gonna replace that engine?
Yeah, I'm afraid we are.
Okay.
We'll be working with Risk and County Manager and Bill Volkman to get that purchase made too. That's not a light purchase, Chairman.
Don't we have insurance to cover?
Yeah, but we're self-insured, and I'm sure the cap on the person who was at fault is not gonna meet the need of purchasing that whole. You're looking at somewhere around $800,000 to $900,000 total.
To replace the whole unit.
Yes.
Right.
And equipment, because
Right,
it
right, sure.
burn up
The
everything.
total loss.
Only thing it didn't burn was
Fire station.
the only thing it did burn was the defibrillator and the drug box, because they actually had it out of the engine working on the patients for the accident. And just, I don't know if you've heard, the person did pass away.
Sorry to
did.
hear.
So, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Randy.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Manager. For parks, we'll start with the 2011. If this thingamajigger will, there we go. In the 2011 program, we had 172 projects in 50 parks. We have spent $82.5 million of the $87.2, and we are working with the district commissioners to get the remaining projects underway. One of the projects that we have just finished up in the 11 program is at Milford Park. It was a maintenance building that is shared by ourselves and the Youth Association, and a score stand storage. This is the score stand storage building. The association keeps their chalk and bases and things like that for the fields in this one. And then this is the small maintenance building where we come in on this side, and on the back side, the association has a storage room where they keep their uniforms and equipment for that program. In the 2016 SPLOST program, we had 92 projects. We're trudging along. We've got almost 70% of the projects complete. This is one of our ongoing projects, Green Meadows Preserve out on Dallas Highway at the intersection with Old Hamilton. The house is being renovated and brought back to the late 1800s era. Also, the red barn has been stabilized up next to Dallas Highway. $623,360. We plan on opening it in June. You can see the front porch has been added now, or just a little cove. They actually removed the long front porch that had been added in the 1900s, and they're replacing it with one from that period. This is the back of the house. It shows the close proximity to the Cherokee Garden right at the back of the property. We'll have the back porch. That's also where we will be able to accomplish ADA accessibility on the back side of the house there. Here's an interesting fact. The picture on the left is of some of the wallpaper we found in the house. The portion of that wallpaper that was down where the sunlight hit it had bled out to where you could barely see the colors and the shape. But this was up in the shaded area. And the way they did wallpaper back then is they would put linen. They would actually glue the linen to the wall and then glue the wallpaper to the linen. So we're salvaging some of that so we can put it on display there in the old house. pretty neat fact there. Also, with the firehouse, the fireplaces, there were 4 originally in the house. One of them survived all through the years with the period mantle in it, and they're restoring all 4 of them back to where they'll look just like they did back in the day. Mabry Park, located up on Wesley Chapel and Sandy Plains. This project has been a victim of the rain big time, but we will be cutting the ribbon on May 4th at 6:30 in the afternoon. ICANN was the actual contractor on this project. We've already got staff in there tidying up some of the areas where back around the trails where like limbs would fall around the bottom of trees, and we're going in and getting it spruced up to where it'll look really nice for the ribbon cutting.
Is that a current picture?
Yes, sir.
Wow, that looks really good.
This is an aerial showing the entry road coming in from Wesley Chapel. You see the parking with the pervious concrete. This is one of the first playgrounds we've done where we actually use synthetic turf under it, and it's really, really nice. And the pavilions and the community garden. One of the neat features with our restroom maintenance building is all of our downspouts look like they're going into rain barrels, but they actually go straight through into the stormwater system. We were worried about trip hazards having the downspouts coming down that close to the playground, so that was a neat concept that was done there. Maple House Amphitheater, Maple House Barnes Amphitheater. This is the seating project, which has been ongoing over the last several months. We're at 95% complete now. We'll be having a community open house on May 10th from 6 to 8. We will have had our first show by then, but we felt like it would be very important to have the community come in and take a look at these improvements in combination with what we did back in the back of house with the dressing rooms and the green rooms. That is synthetic turf. Folks can now bring chairs. They can bring their TV tables. They can bring their coolers, and there's still plenty of room to walk in front of them once they get sit down.
And we can sell tickets in that seating area now.
We will be selling tickets for that seating area. We do have some disgruntled young people who used to roll down that hill frequently. I believe the commissioner's 2 sons was 2 of those who enjoyed rolling down it. There's going to be a thud every few minutes when they go from layer to layer now. But we're really excited about this project, what it's going to do. This is an aerial shot. There will be on either side rentable spaces for families or businesses. They can go in and have table seating there on the side.
Jimmy, what's the entertainment for the open house? What band is?
There's not a concert that night.
You better book one.
It's just an open house, just to come in and take a look at it.
I think we need entertainment.
Has to be ABBA.
Yeah.
Has to be ABBA.
No. You can't afford this.
Jimmy,
Yes, sir.
we also took care of the structural issues.
Yes, sir. We actually went back of house and took care of all of those.
Okay.
There are still a few things left to be done. We
All
still
right.
have some money we'll be getting with Commissioner Cupid. She gave us a list and she gives us a clearance down to certain levels, so we'll be checking more off the list on that one. But this is going to be a great addition to the facility. The last 2 pictures is just a facility that you've always seen, but we always show you pictures of empty buildings. Musk Ministries had their Boots and Bling out there on April 13th, and to actually see a facility full of people, that's why we do what we do. They had a great event. It was slap full, and I didn't know it, but that was an actual Bentley sitting out front. I don't know if they had that on.
was a live auction. You could rent.
Please
You
don't.
could rent the Bentley for the weekend.
I think the Parks Director needs a Bentley to drive around, don't you, Chairman?
I was just asking, please don't tell me that's a county vehicle.
No, sir. Mr. Volkman tried to get me one, but I told him no, not this time. But it's just nice to see people in the buildings that we build, and we wanted to share that with you. Here are a few ongoing projects that we have. The Kennesaw Joint Project, we have transferred the $4.3 million to them. They're going to be building that recreation center in Adams Park. However, they're only going to be able to do about half of it, so they'll be building that building in phases. We've been working with them on their design, and Jim Croft is actually doing the design on that one. The Ackworth Joint Project, their community center, ribbon cutting is on the 25th of this month at 3:30. I hope all of you can attend that. Our park system signage and wayfinding, we have looked at a couple of examples so far. The goal of that project is that we will have specifications that as money becomes available, we can standardize our park signage system all around the county. Old Clarkdale Park, you approved that design consultant at the last meeting, and now we're under negotiations with them. The Mountain View Community Center parking, as you know, we lost our parking when that development went in beside Mountain View, and we're trying to design some parking back behind the building for that. Discovery Boulevard property, construction should start this fall. It's heavily under design now. And then the paving at Nickajack, the notice to proceed has been issued. So, any questions?
Great year. Thank you, Jim.
I have
Sure.
an announcement.
Go ahead.
Remember?
Yep, sure, go ahead.
What you didn't see, pictures today, but will be at the next SPLOS update, is we are reopening Sweat Mountain Dog Park this afternoon at 5 o'clock. We've just made some improvements on the large dog side and the small dog side for better access and security. And we did come up with a temporary location for the 4 weeks that the dog park was out of commission. And so everybody's excited. Jimmy is taking dog biscuits and refreshments, and I'm bringing cookies, and we're gonna have a great celebration at 5 o'clock. So I would call Judy and ask her to bring Lucky to the newly renovated dog park at Sweat Mountain.
Well, as you know, the first dog is in high demand this time of year.
My two will be there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. Great report. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners, County Manager. I'm going to give you an update for the quarter for transportation. So from the 2011 SPLOS, we had around 208 projects, and we are close to 96% complete. We are 1.5% of our projects are in design, and almost 3% are in the construction phase. So currently on the map, we have 3 projects that are actually in the design phase, and one of the phases of design, 6 projects that are in construction, and 199 that have actually been completed. So the projects that we do have in some form of our design right now are McCullen Parkway Sidewalks, Lower Roswell Road, Woodlawn Drive Sidewalks. And you can see up here that the McCullen Parkway Sidewalks are in coordination with a 2016 SPLOS project at McCullen Parkway and Ben King Road. Projects that are in the construction phase for the 2011 SPLOS are Cobb Parkway at Windy Hill Road, which should be complete this spring. Cobb Parkway Corridor, which included the Q Jumper Lanes, Phase 1, which is at Cobb Parkway at Windy Hill. Gordon Combs Road Sidewalks, which should be coming to the board for approval next month. Riverview Road, which should be complete construction 2020. Sandy Plains Road, fall completion of this year, and Shallowford Road Sidewalks. So just an update on Lower Roswell Road. This project is a roadway safety and operational improvement project, and it's between Davison Road and Woodlawn Drive. We're looking at raised medians east of Johnson's Ferry Road, lanes to maintain 2 through lanes in each direction, lengthen and add turn lanes, and enhance traffic and pedestrian signals. The design is in progress. Right now, this project is running a little over budget, so we'll be watching this project to see what we'll have to do to try and reduce the project scope or how we'll move forward with that. Our next project that we'd like to highlight will be Cobb Parkway at Windy Hill Road, and this is the intersection improvement project. It should be open this May, and it was a coordination with the City of Marietta. We had dual left turn lanes and queue jumper lanes on the north and south legs of Cobb Parkway. We've lengthened the existing dual left turn lanes and added a right turn lane on the west leg of Windy Hill Road and added a third northbound lane on Cobb Parkway exiting to Terrell Mill Road. Another project that we'd like to highlight is our Shallowford Road Sidewalk project. This was the construction of sidewalks on the south side of Shallowford Road between Canton Road and Meadow Way, and this should be completed this May also. So with our 2016 SPLOST, currently we have 210 transportation projects, and to date we have completed 98 of those projects. We have 24 that are in progress of construction and 66 that are in a form of design for engineering. We actually had planned 57 for completed for this time when we looked at our schedules. 31 projects should have been completed in construction and 61 projects that should have been in design or an engineering phase. So we're a little ahead of schedule, so we're pretty proud of that. So this is a map of the county and where the projects are located that are in design. So 66 of those are in some form of design in the pre-construction phase, and they're highlighted in green, and then 24 projects that are in construction. And as of March 31st of that's not right, March 31st of 2019, DOT completed 98 of our 2016 SPLOST projects. So this is a really long list. I don't know that you want me to read all of them, but I can let you look at them. But we will highlight Ackworth Due West Road at Jim Owens Road, Mars Hill Church Road, Hicks Road at Concord Road, and McCullum Parkway at Bing King Road, which is a joint project with the City of Kennesaw. Okay, just making sure.
You can
We'll
just
also-
send us the slides.
Okay.
Erica.
Our next project will be Cheatham Hill Road at Dallas Highway, which is the Kennesaw Mountain Pedestrian Improvements. And another one will be Cherokee Street joint projects with Kennesaw. And then we'll also look at some construction projects, which will be Macedonia Road over Noses Creek Bridge Replacement, Paces Ferry Road at New Paces Ferry Road, Paces Mill Road, West Side Drive, Cumberland Boulevard, and Mcpherson Road sidewalks from Post Oak Triet to Shallowford Road. So the first project that we'll highlight will be our Ackworth Due West at Jim Owens Mars Hill Church Road. This is the construction of a roundabout. It'll be the removal of an all-way stop. We'll have a dedicated right turn deceleration lane into Lewis Elementary School. We're in the design phase right now, early right-of-way coordination. We're coordinating with the Cobb County School District, and we are looking at going to construction later this year, probably late summer of 2019. Cherokee Street is a safety and operational roadway improvement project. We're widening Cherokee Street to add a third eastbound lane between Giles Road and Shallow Road. And it's a joint project with the City of Kennesaw. We have Hicks Road at Concord Road. This is addition of turn lanes, a traffic signal modification, and pedestrian improvements. Design's complete. We're almost complete with right-of-way and scheduled to go to construction June of 19. We have McCullum Parkway at Bing King Road. This is a safety and operational improvement at the McCullum Parkway and Bing King Road and Big Shanty Road intersection, which will be a roundabout, and in pedestrian improvements. We're in design and right-of-way acquisition, and we should go to construction late summer of 2019. This is a highlight of the Kennesaw Mountain pedestrian improvements. So this will be the construction of an 8 to 10 foot multi-use trail. You'll have a connection on the east side of Cheatham Hill Road from Powder Springs, Macklin Road to John Ward Road. You'll have connection on the south side of State Route 120 Whitlock Avenue from John Ward Road to Cheatham Hill Drive. And then on the west side of Burnt Hickory Road from State Route 120 Whitlock to Polk Street. And switching to the east side of Burnt Hickory to the National Park Service lot near Old Mountain Road. In this funding, we have many partners: it's National Park Service, Marietta, Georgia DOT, and Federal Highway. And we're looking to go to construction spring of 2021. Macedonia Bridge over Noses Creek. The rain really impacted us on this project, along with some issues that we had in design going into construction. So this is a bridge replacement project. The contractor was Baldwin. We are scheduled to open April 30th of 2019. We're going to continue to watch that with the rain, and if anything changes, we'll push that information out. But fingers crossed, we are begging them to work as hard as they can to make sure we don't miss that date. Yes, ma'am. So it'll be open, and overall completion we plan June of 2019. And then we have Cumberland Boulevard, which is roadway safety and operational improvements between Spring Hill and Acres Mill Road. We widened this from 2 lanes to 3 lanes in the westbound direction, added turn lanes and pedestrian improvements. And then we have highlight West Side Drive. It's a roadway safety and operational improvement. The construction of a roundabout at the intersection of West Side Drive and Sandtown Road. We're widening and realigning at West Side Drive, including pedestrian improvements and a new traffic signal installation at South Cobb Drive while we remove the signal that is at Beach Road. And then Paces Ferry Road at New Paces Ferry Road at Paces Mill Road, Twin Lakes Drive. This is a safety and operational improvement also. We're going to restrict left turns from westbound Paces Ferry Road to Paces Ferry Road. We're moving the fountain from the raised island to behind the sidewalk. We're adding curb and gutter and sidewalks on Twin Lakes Drive, Overlook Parkway. Then we have Mcpherson Road sidewalks. This is the construction of sidewalks on the west side of Mcpherson Road between Shalloper Road and Post Oak Triet, and this should be completed this month. Resurfacing, in 2011, we resurfaced 467 miles of roads, which equal to almost $101 million. 2016 to date, we've completed 8 contracts, which is close to $46 million, which is 168 miles of roadway. This is just our calendar year 2019 resurfacing. We have 3 contracts. The contract 1 is countywide thoroughfares with Georgia DOT LMIG funds, totaled $5.6 million, that helped us award a contract for $9.2 million for 23 roads, or 21.8 miles of roadways to be resurfaced. Then we have contract 2, local roads south, and contract 3, local roads north. And then next quarter, we're planning to have 10 of our projects completed, 15 new construction starts, and 5 design. And then this is just where we're at this quarter. We expect to have 45 projects valued at $80 million scheduled to be let to construction. And this is our list of projects that we plan to do this year. With that.
Any questions? You're busy down there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks, Erica.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Burrow?
Is this the last presentation?
She's the last one.
Before we adjourn, I'd like to make a correction on the Mabry Park.
Sure.
The ribbon cutting is actually Thursday, May 2nd at 6:30. I believe the slide said May 4th. So
That's a
we'll get
Saturday.
that corrected, but thank you, John Gargis, for catching that.
Yeah, because the 4th is a Saturday. That's what I thought it was, but it's Thursday. Okay.
It is May 2nd. I just confirmed with Jimmy.
Okay. And then for those who are watching, we pulled item number 4, which is a discussion on some procedures involving annexation. That wasn't ready for prime time, so we'll have that at a later time. So with that, we're adjourned. Thank you.
You need a pen?
No, I just had to rush up here. I got to call Judy.